stay with us, Danny. Forever and ever.
Welcome to Screams and Streams, the podcast that looks at the best and worst horror movies as rated on Rotten Tomatoes. From 1970 onwards, I'm your host, Chad. With me is my co-host,
Mike Karen,
and our guest,
TJ Hurd.
Be sure to check us out on Instagram. Our handle is @ScreamStreamPod. Also, check out our website at screamsandstreams.com. Just a warning, if you don't like spoilers, we recommend that you stop listening now, check out the film, and then rejoin us for our discussion. Today, we are looking at Stanley Kubrick's 1980 film, The Shining. It scored 83% on Rotten Tomatoes, and let's get into it. Mike, you're going to give us our summary.
All right. The plot summary on IMDb is: a family heads to an isolated hotel for the winter where a sinister presence influences the father into violence, while his psychic son sees horrific forebodings from both past and future.
All right. There we go. So we're going to jump into our first impressions. We're going to start with our guest, TJ. What was your first impression of this film?
Well, I first watched it about 5 years ago, immediately after reading the book, and I hated it from start to finish because the book, in my opinion, was so much better. But now, fast forward 5 years, the book's a little bit faded away out of my memory, and I really enjoyed it this week. It was a thriller. The whole part, the scenery was incredible. The acting, everything top to bottom was an excellent film, I would say. I definitely don't hate it as much as I used to.
Fair enough.
All right. So next, I'm going to give my first impression. So this isn't really my first impression. I've seen this movie multiple times. I enjoyed it. I haven't read the book. So when I stepped into it, I knew it was based on a Stephen King novel. And I had seen some Stephen King stuff previous, but it was mostly bad. So Sleepwalkers, I watched It, the made-for-TV special. So I was going into this, I remember getting it and being like, oh no, let's see what happens. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a good film. Kubrick can get a little crazy with some of the stuff he does, and I thought Jack Nicholson did a great job. Shelley Duvall was, I don't want to say the weakest part of the film, but she wasn't my favorite, I'd say.
Definitely not the strongest.
But overall, I thought it was really well done. The imagery in the film is amazing. The shots Kubrick used are fantastic and really tells a story. So I enjoyed it. I didn't know that Stephen King didn't like the film until later on. I hadn't heard that he didn't like it till a lot later. And then his criticism was the same as yours, is the book is better.
Far better.
And very different.
Yeah. So I found that interesting. And then he made his own TV miniseries of it.
He made something of it.
Yeah, it was basically a shot-for-shot remake of the book, which went on too long. And anyways, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was a fun ride, a thriller.
The look on TJ's eyes when you're like, it's a shot-for-shot remake of the book, and he's just like, don't disparage the book.
Well, no, and now I kind of want to go read the book, but...
It'll ruin the movie for you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I don't think afterwards, if I would have read the book and then watched the film, I think it'd be, oh, this is horrible. It's like Game of Thrones. Like I read the book, watched the series, and this is bullshit. I hate this.
Right.
But when I kind of told myself they're doing their own thing with it, then I was okay.
Yeah.
But
it's like Marvel Comics versus Marvel Universe. They're separate.
Right. And I've only seen the movies, so they're great.
Some of them are.
anyways, I enjoyed it. Go ahead, Mike.
So I actually do remember the first time I saw this movie, and although I started reading Stephen King when I was in like grade 5, started with Tommyknockers, which was a hell of a book for a kid in grade 5 to read, I'll tell you that. I hadn't read The Shining by the time I got to the movie. It was always checked out of the library. And so it was on a ski trip to Kimberly with a classmate of mine when I was in grade 8. And we were staying at this little cabin, and it was his mom, her friend, and the two of us, and they rented The Shining. And I remember watching that. I don't know what time of night it was. It was pitch black out. The room was dark. The movie was on, and it scared the bejesus out of me. Like I had nightmares that night. I was unsettled. I never wanted to watch it again. It just made my skin crawl so much. I was like 13 or 14, and it was just too much for me. I know on other episodes I've talked about like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was too young. Alien, I was young. This one,
you watched a lot of movies too young.
But this was the one that unsettled me. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think I was too young for it to have a resonating effect. This was the one. This is one where I was at an age where I was old enough to understand what was happening and old enough to feel the effect.
Well, you were also in a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, it was a lot. So that was my first time. And then I rewatched it for a university course. That was the next time I came back to The Shining. And it was an independent essay project. So I'm like, I'm going to do it on The Shining. I'm going to take it home. I was working at Casablanca Video at the time. So I took it home one night and I watched it, started at probably 12:30 in the morning, watched it by myself again in a dark basement and had to turn it off. Could not make it through the movie on my own in the middle of the night. Had to watch it in the middle of the day. Yeah. There's just something about this movie there's something about the movie that just gets under my skin. Even rewatching it now, I've seen it multiple times since then. It's one of those like perennial rewatches. Rewatching it this time, I know what's going to happen. I know where it's coming, but there's still things in this movie that just unsettle me so much. And so many of my notes, I'm like, I need to get a thesaurus because unsettled is getting overused. I'm like, it was like trope this, but it unsettled me. Back it up. It was unsettling, gratuitous. It unsettled me. I love the movie. It unsettles me. First impression scared the crap out of me. Current impression stands up still.
Nice.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go into our next category, Tropes Hall of Shame. I'm going to start this one. So my first trope is the hotels built on an Indian burial ground. How many times have we seen bad things happen to people who build things on ancient burial grounds? And it just happens over and over again. We just did a podcast about a film in 79 that it was built.
Yeah,
Amityville Horror. Yeah, sorry. And it was built on a burial ground as well. Pet Cemetery at a burial ground. Poltergeist is a burial ground. Like, it's just been done to death. So that was my first one. Next, TJ.
It's just the idea of moving to an isolated place with your family to relax, and then all of a sudden you find yourself in a horror movie. I mean, that is the plot of The Cabin in the Woods. It's the plot of every countless of let's go to an isolated place, and then we'll all get axed to death or whatever it may be.
Gonna have a fun vacation. Nope. Someone goes psycho.
What could possibly go wrong?
Or there's some creature that stalks them or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
My first trope is the child with an imaginary friend.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like Danny has Tony with a little finger talking, which I read was improvised by the actor.
Yeah, I found that out too, yeah.
I didn't know that until this watch of it. But what I did like is, although it's an imaginary friend, it's not an evil imaginary friend, right? We just came off Amityville where Jody is the demon, and there's Insidious, and there's so many other movies where it's an imaginary friend is the demon that's possessing. Right. So I did appreciate with this one where the imaginary friend was a protectorate or something like that.
Not only that, but it's him, right? That is the older version of him talking back to himself.
Oh.
Yeah. Fun fact of the day.
Is that from the novel?
That's from the
or Dr. Sleep.
Second book, maybe. Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep. That's right. Yeah. I have seen Dr. Sleep as well. Have you read the book?
I watched the movie, I think. My wife read the book, gave me the backstory to it.
Yeah.
We watched the movie, but I think it's in the book because the movie and book doesn't line up at all. So the second book is very different than the second movie as well.
Oh, okay.
Huh. Interesting.
Then why would he change his name?
I don't know. Maybe to not alarm the little guy. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, he could have given better warnings.
Much better. Yeah.
It's like, hey, this is 1980. They called. They want their joke back. It's like, well, did you warn them about 2001?
Yeah. My next one was telling horrible occurrences that happen, and then there's, we still won't have a problem here.
Right.
So Jack goes for the interview, and he says, well, I feel like I should be honest. There was the old caretaker came in here, and he butchered his family. Isolation can be a hell of a thing. And he took an axe to his family, and he seems just unfazed by that whole story. He's like, I'm
tired of him anyways.
I'm looking for peace and quiet.
That won't happen.
We won't have any problems here. And on it goes. So they just agree to stay, and that's the deal. It doesn't even register. And he doesn't tell anybody else about that.
Right.
He just,
Doesn't he say that if he told Wendy, she would appreciate the story or she would appreciate that information?
He does say that.
Oh, yeah, because she's into horror movies and the spiritual realm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he does say that, yeah. But I don't think he ever tells her.
I don't think
he talks to her at all, other than maybe that one scene.
Well, he calls her and says he got the job.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in every other scene, he's just get out of here.
Shit out of her.
But he doesn't even tell her. He's like, we got a lot to do here. And she has to be like, did you get the job? He's like, oh, yeah, we got the job.
Oh, yeah. Sounds like you got the job.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we did. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Mike?
My next trope is when Jack sells his soul for a drink.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just selling your soul for something, right? Like, oh, I'd give my soul for this, or selling your soul to get what you want. Mm-hmm. And again, I've watched this movie multiple times and I know that he's an alcoholic and he's suffering and the hotel's playing with him. But that moment never clicked with me that is the ultimate shift in him, right? Like, he's irritable and irritated and the presence of his family's getting to him. But when he sits down, he's like, oh, I would sell my soul for something to drink.
Yeah. And then Lloyd's there.
And then that's the hard right turn into shitville or whatever that the movie takes at that point.
TJ, did you have another one?
Yeah, I'll preface this by saying I did really like the music in the film, but the classic like violin-y re type music as it builds into the scarier part of the film that's every horror movie ever made has used that soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah, the high pitch.
Yeah.
I don't want to replicate it or can't.
Yeah.
It's pretty close.
I have another one. The high angle shot of the car driving towards the
Overlook
hotel. The high angle shot of horror movies is just used to death. It's always the beginning. They're driving to the cabin, or it could just be the start of the film and they're driving to a house, but it's a high angle shot all the time.
But it's interesting with The Shining because when you read a lot of reviews or a lot of analysis of the film, they talk about the contrast and the dagger-like quality of the trees. And that shot is analyzed to death,
right?
And spoken about how great it is. But you're right. Like, how many movies now do we see where it's the car driving, seen from above, this tiny little miniature almost going through the scene?
Yeah, and maybe that was the one. But I remember seeing it in some of our other horror movies earlier.
Right.
So I don't know if he was a trendsetter there and he started it off and then everybody just, oh, that was a popular movie, so now we're just going to copy it, or what happened there. But it just happens all the time.
All the time.
And I'm tired of it.
Yep. Oh, fair enough.
So take it out, filmmakers. Do something else. Anything else? Does anybody have another one?
I've got the inability to open a door in a panic, where Wendy's trying to get Jack into the cold storage or the dry storage.
Oh, yeah.
And she's wrenching on that handle over and over again. And you can see the pin is in there. It's locked.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, just pull the pin. Just pull the pin. Just pull the pin. And I know we're supposed to panic and Jack Nicholson's laying there like kind of groggily
He's waking up at that time. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's supposed to build tension, but it's so obvious why the door isn't opening.
Well, they focus on the pin. Yeah. They want you to be like, what are you doing?
I think it just goes on too long.
Yeah.
I think if she like pulled it a couple of times and then was just like, what the hell? And then, oh geez. And then pulled it and then got him in there.
Yeah.
But she pulls it like 6 or 7 times. She's just like crying and pulling this thing. It's just, God, get him in there.
Yeah. My last trope is he was there the whole time, or he's been there forever, right? The movie ends with that zoom into the image of the July 4th ball in 1921. And there's Jack Nicholson front and center. And in case you didn't notice it, they zoom in again. So it's Jack Nicholson and they zoom in again on his eyes,
right?
Which is like his presence has always been at the hotel. He's always been a part of this sort of negative energy. He's not new to the environment.
Which is dumb. But anyways.
It really punches it home a lot at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, he really sells it. Yeah. Next category we're going to move into is one-liners. So I have a couple. The first one I took were just from the beginning of the hotel. I just got, they were kind of funny. When he's in the interview, the guy conducting the interview, Ullman, I believe his name is the winters can be fantastically cruel. I thought was a pretty interesting line. He's telling him about the isolation and everything. And then while they're getting a tour, the caretaker says, you got to stay regular if you want to be happy. He takes them through every single storage room. I don't understand. Obviously she's going to be making the meals and I guess, but he goes through everything exhaustingly. We've got 700 lamb. He lists all their storage stuff. And I just thought it was funny when he just threw that one out there. So I wrote those two. Next, we're going to jump to TJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought one that was kind of just weird. Maybe I didn't get the reference, but when Jack is talking about his son coming back from playing early on in the show, he says, Dan, did you get tired of bombing the universe? Like, he was playing darts. I don't understand the reference at all. What does bombing the universe mean for a kid in that time?
I caught that too. And I think, like, was there an arcade in the game room, like an Asteroids or something?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
But we didn't see that, though.
Yeah.
We just saw him, like,
Right. We see the darts and there's a pool table there, but yeah, you're right. Like it doesn't fit.
I just didn't understand that one at all. My favorite like violent quote is where Jack's chasing the wife up the stairs. There's a couple back and forths and he's like, I'm just going to bash your brains in. I'm going to bash them right the fuck in. I'm like, oh boy, he's really going for it there.
For my lines, I'm going to stick with the Jack Nicholson as well. The scene where he's in the Colorado room and Wendy's disrupted him. And he's like, okay, well, I'll give you some space. And he's just like, why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here? He's such an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
As I laugh through it.
Yeah.
And then speaking of laugh through it, I'm going to segue into one of my other lines, which is during the interview when Ullman's talking about what happened with Grady, he's like a car salesman trying to sell a lemon. Like he's just laughing through like, oh, it's no big deal. But he's like, well, you know, at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of complete mental breakdown. He ran amok, which made me think of those old chuck-amucks with like Daffy Duck in the Warner Brothers. He's like, and killed his family with an axe, stacked them neatly on one of the rooms in the West Wing. And then he put both barrels of a shotgun in his mouth. Yeah. But he delivers the line like it's like, and then he dropped the flour on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, well, I should tell you this. And then he just goes into it just so nonchalantly about this horrible event that happened. And this guy's taking that job.
The most underqualified person in the world.
I'm a writer, former teacher. I'm a writer. And I'm just going to...
But recommended by the board or whatever it was. Yeah.
There's no current maintenance workers that want to stay on for get a paycheck through the winter. They're like, no, we're out of here. I'll just... I'm fine.
I had a couple others. One of them was the caretaker again, where he's talking to Danny and he says, some places are like people, some shine, some don't. I like that line. And then I got one where Danny is talking to Jack in the room and he says, Dad, do you like this hotel? He says, yeah, I do. I love it. I want to stay here forever. And I thought that was it's really getting to the point where he's going batshit crazy, right? Like he's falling down the well. Yeah. So I like those two lines as well.
Yeah, my next one is where Jack's sitting down at the bar. And he's like, I'd give my goddamn soul just for a glass of beer.
Yeah, I had that one too.
Like, paints a picture of how desperate he is for a drink, but also who says a glass of beer? Like I never got home like, I just had 3 glasses today. And you just say a beer. That's what you say. But then right after that, the bartender's like, your money's no good here. That's where like you realize that he's in hell or some other alternate universe of some kind. Kind of sets the mood for the shenanigans after that.
I did like though when he's like, it's taken care of, it's no big deal. Like your money's no good. He's like, well, I kind of want to know who's buying me my drinks, Lloyd.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I love that where it's like he's still a little oppositional to the force at that point, but he's bought in entirely once the Jack Daniels gets poured.
Yeah, which is closer to the book of like the battle between giving in to the hotel and keeping his own sanity.
Right.
I loved the scene where he's at the ball and he gets the whatever, like the avocado drink.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Spilled on him. And then they're in the bathroom and Grady's talking to him about his family. Cause Jack Nicholson's like, weren't you the caretaker here at the start of the conversation?
Yeah.
He's like, no, that's not me, sir. That's not me, sir. And then he's like talking about his family and how Jack Nicholson's family's going a bit off. He's like, perhaps they need a good talking to, if you don't mind me saying so. Perhaps a bit more. My girls, sir, they didn't care for the Overlook at first. One of them actually stole a pack of matches and tried to burn it down, but I corrected them, sir. And when my wife tried to prevent me from doing my duty, I corrected her. Like it's just like, it was so ominous, so dark.
The other one I had was when he was talking about and trying to justify why he abused his son. When he dislocated his shoulder and he's just like, the little fucker had thrown all my papers around. And it's like,
it's just one of those things.
Yeah. So I put that one in and that, I think that's my final one-liner of the film. There were so many when he goes insane. I mean, you could sit here and quote a lot of Jack Nicholson's lines, but those were the ones that really kind of hit home for me. So TJ, did you have any others?
Well, I feel like you have to mention the Here's Johnny at some point.
Yeah.
Which was ad-lit, which was the most famous line from the movie he came up with on the spot. I really loved that role, I guess, of chopping down people's doors. And you could really see Jack Nicholson doing that in real life, I feel like. So he's done that a couple times before.
Well, he was a volunteer firefighter.
I was going to say I have research on this, but go ahead, Chad.
I researched that as well. He was a volunteer firefighter, and actually he snapped through all their prop doors too quickly. They went through over 60 prop doors to get the perfect shot for that scene because he was too good at chopping down their door. So yeah, he knew what he was doing.
But you think that would make them realize that it isn't realistic, that you would just blow through that door with an axe. Where they're like, we'll just keep putting in a door. Maybe it won't do this one that well. It won't get through the door.
We'll go with some
an
mahogany
axe.
or teak this time.
That's right.
Who's using birch for these things?
Why are these all pine? Mike, did you have any others?
I'm just going to go for one more. And it's towards the end when Wendy and him, like he's chasing after Wendy and that. And she's, we're going to get out of here. We're going to get out of here. He's like, well, you've got a big surprise coming to you. Go check the snowcat in the radio. You're not going anywhere. Right before we realize like the destruction. So not only is he going crazy, not only is he like knows that like he knows he's going to murder his family, but he's had the forethought to also remove any opportunity for them to get out of the property.
Right. Okay, now we're going to go into what doesn't hold up in this film. So I'm going to kick that off. My first doesn't hold up is the opening credits. It looks like a template from iMovie.
100%. That was my first one.
So bad. That and the end credits as well just don't look good in my opinion. TJ?
We kind of touched on this one a little bit, but just the idea that after a huge massacre, they would just hire somebody without the skills to actually do the job, but without doing some type of like psych eval for the person that's keeping care of your multi-million-dollar facility for the entire season, off season.
A little bit more of a background check.
Yeah, like
you're an alcoholic who abused your child. You'll be fine.
you'll fit right in here. Yeah.
We're going to lock you away for 5 months.
This one, actually, my wife pointed out because it took her right out of the scene. But the pink toilets that they had, who uses pink toilets these days? You know, it's just really the art deco in the place was just terrible.
What about the green bathroom with like the curved arches over the shower?
Also brutal. Just every aspect of the design. The carpet too, the like classic orangey yellow
The
hexagons
prints,
throughout with the prints. Yeah. She was real concerned about that one. So
she's never been to Vegas. That's like every Vegas hallway.
we've never been to Vegas. No.
That bedroom, like the
237?
contrast of the bedroom to the bathroom was crazy. Like all green.
Yeah.
And the floor pattern on the room, I thought it looked a little phallic, personally. It looked like a bunch of little penises pointing to the bathroom. Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to go back
And the
and look.
red paint too in the bathroom and the ball space, the hall.
Yeah.
It was so aggressively red. It was like hard to look at on the screen because it was blinding red colors.
Yeah, when they entered that room, it was just, wow. It's just, you want to get out of there as soon as possible.
Especially when you're alone with a stranger who's wiping your shirt. And you're like, maybe.
Just telling you about how he corrected his family.
Well, even the wallpaper in their apartment or the room that they're staying in, like it's just, you don't see that. It's oppressive. It's just every wall's a different pattern of wallpaper, room to room to room.
My aunt's house still looked like that. Aunt Cheryl, if you're listening, change your paint.
Well, the other thing is they have this massive hotel and these are your quarters and it looks cheap and tiny. Like the bedroom and the bathroom and the kitchen are all in the same room.
Well, they definitely have a presidential suite in there too. Like, why not put them up in the nicest place in the whole place? Yeah.
Doesn't he say though they can
move
He
around?
says you can move around in the hotel. Of course, you have the hotel at your disposal, so you can move around. But these are your quarters.
Yeah, these are the ones you should stay in, these shitty little places.
Yeah. And there's a little spot for your son. Perfect for a child. Like
the tiniest little bed, like not even a double, maybe a double. For me, that doesn't hold up. This was something that's bothered me every time I've watched the movie. And it's when Jack Nicholson like regains consciousness in the storeroom and Wendy has locked him in and Grady opens the door for him. And it's always bothered me because if this movie is supposed to be about his declining sanity and his madness, there's no way he should have been able to open the door.
I have a note about that in my bonus stuff.
Yeah,
so we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it just always bothers me because it's like he shouldn't have been able to get out of there. But then it's like, well, I guess we have to believe that the ghosts of the hotel are real and are helping him.
But they established that in the film, like when they rolled the ball up to Danny,
right?
That had to come from somewhere, and that was a real physical object. But
I see, and I think it was just Jack Nicholson in a fugue, right? Like,
yeah.
But again, maybe I'm putting too much of like reading the book afterwards onto this film. But yeah, that one bothers me.
So I have another doesn't hold up. Shelley Duvall's wardrobe.
Just the wardrobe? That's your only problem with her?
Well, no, there are others. I have a couple of notes. You know what? I'm just going to say it. I said her acting, I want to cut her a break because I know what she went through.
Yeah.
But it's rough. In the beginning, it's really bad. I don't mind it at the end when she's kind of, freaking out. But even that is a little more than I can take.
Yeah.
She goes from 0 to 100 really quick.
And the whole last part of the movie, she's just running around screaming and crying. I mean, she's beating him. She's knocked him down. She's locked him in the room. She's got Danny away. I mean, she's winning the battle here, but she's just a hot mess. And it's hard to watch her run around with that knife, shaking her hand and it's just rough. But one particular costume was when she goes into the hall and she interrupts him from his writing. And she's wearing this blue dress, this frock, and these bright red boots.
Oh, yes.
And I was just, what is happening here? And then when she's talking on the radio and she's got that vest, that bright yellow vest, jacket with these things embroidered on it. There's just so many choices that I was...
The wardrobe in general, like the ties too. Did you notice everybody's tie were like the knitted ties?
The knitted ties.
Yeah.
The larger collars and the bad haircuts. And
the full Windsor on Ullman.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson's haircut is insane. Like, you wouldn't have that today by any means.
When I was watching the interview and they saw the ties, I'm like, doesn't hold up. The ties. I'm like, that's too easy of a cheap shot. But they don't hold up. They are terrible.
No.
On the Shelley Duvall thing, I'm just going to jump in because I had her down as well. And you're right. The way she was treated by Kubrick is deplorable. But she doesn't hold up from the beginning of the movie. Even before the torture at the Overlook starts to place. And so I just felt like doesn't hold up, Shelley Duvall. And my next one was like, doesn't hold up. She runs like a marionette.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, it made me think of like the Seinfeld episode where Jerry and Elaine are running through the airport. And he's like, get your knees up. Yeah. And then George is running the same way. Like she has her hands up above her shoulders and she's just like sideways running everywhere. Oh, it was so hard to watch.
Well, in the way, and I know like we'll talk about this when we get into the research, but when she's swinging the bat, she's choked up so high on that bat and she's just get away. And it's like, man, give it a little length. You're going to get more power. There's more leverage. What are you doing?
Do you not know how a fulcrum works?
It's also an oddly small bat too. Like it was
it's not a
maybe
full,
that's all she could kind of throw around for the scene.
Well, it must have been Danny's toy bat, right? Like it must have been a bat made for him, right?
Maybe, yeah.
But why does she have it? We don't see her go get it.
Well, we see her when Jack is at the bar in the ballroom. Yeah. And Danny has been like, this is after she's accused him of choking Danny.
Yeah.
She then goes running down the hallway with the bat. So yeah, they must have had it in their quarters as one of his toys.
Right.
But she runs into the ballroom with the bat like, Jack, someone's hurt Danny. There's someone else in the hotel.
Well, yeah. Okay. So she must have got it from there then and then brought it and then swung it at him. But
And somehow knocked him out in one swing.
Knocked him all the way down the stairs.
So I would say what doesn't hold up is generally like how terrible of guy he is to his family. Like when he's talking about his wife and he's like the old sperm bank up there, he says.
Yeah.
And like the idea that the family would, which it happens in some cases, they're still together, but the idea that they move out to a mountainous, lonely place together if he's violent and drunk and all these things. But the way he talks about his wife and his kid is pretty rough throughout the film.
He doesn't like them from the get-go.
No.
Like in my research, I'll just jump on this now because in my research, because I didn't read the book, one of Stephen King's criticisms was that Jack was a family man and that he was nice, like he wanted to be a good dad.
Mm-hmm. Right.
In this, he doesn't. It's like he hates his wife. He's annoyed at his kid. Even in the first drive where Danny comes in and says, I'm hungry. He's like, well, you should have ate your supper or your breakfast. And he's like, well, I don't like those. And he's like, well, and then Shelley Duvall says, well, we'll get something when we get to the hotel.
Yeah.
And she comes and kind of saves the day, but he's just angry.
That was one of my biggest problems the first time I watched the movie because he redeems himself throughout the book. Like it's a constant struggle of like you're taken over into insanity, but then you're back to being this loving, caring father.
Right.
But from the start of this movie, he's just a terrible
he's a
father
bad
the
guy.
whole way through.
Yeah. And I think you want to like him because I watched the miniseries and he's like that. He's a dad that wants to be a good father and he's conflicted because he goes back and forth. So you kind of like, I wouldn't say you root for him, but you're like, oh man, he's having a hard time. Like this is rough. Whereas in this one, you're just like, this guy's a dick. I don't like him.
No.
Like right from the start. Even his interview. I didn't like how he answered questions in his interview.
They needed a bad guy though, because the hotel is the bad guy.
Right.
So if you take the hotel out of being the bad guy, he has to be the bad guy, I guess, in the movie.
But isn't the hotel still the bad guy in this film?
It's not good.
but that goes back to the whole like trope of he's in that picture.
Right.
So it's not the hotel's the bad guy. He's been the presence in the hotel since like 21 or earlier. So again, it takes it out of being the hotel that's the bad guy. He's the bad guy.
But they didn't show Halloran in the photo either. Like they kind of like...
Oh, one more thing about Shelley Duvall. Sorry. She has an accent in some scenes and not in others.
Yeah, she's Southern or not.
She's trying to do an accent and I don't know why.
Yeah. I think it's, I don't know. I don't know. Like,
but yeah, it confused me. I just don't know why she was trying to pull off this accent. And it's bad because it comes in and out within the same sentence.
Yeah.
Like she just can't pull it off. So I don't know why it's there.
Yeah. I thought I was like, am I misremembering that she had an accent at the start of this? But yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, next, TJ, did you have any more?
Yeah, just like the idea that it's on Indian burial grounds. There's some like racist undertones throughout the movie a couple of times when they're talking about the chef and things like that. That I guess they could be building characters, like they're building how bad those people are, I suppose. But you also didn't really need it to build up how bad those characters are. Like he chopped up his family, stacked them on top of each other and whatever, tried to burn the place down, or his daughter tried to burn the place down. But minor things like that throughout it that you don't need.
Yeah.
We're going to move on to most gratuitous scene. TJ is going to kick us off with this one.
Well, there's a very obvious scene for this one. The most gratuitous scene has to be the disgusting old rotting lady that Jack is making out with, where I don't know if it's bed sores or just she's decaying, but that was by far the grossest scene in the entire movie to me.
Yeah.
You just want a sweet old lady to look sweet and nice, not like dead and decaying and making out with
the loose gray skin on her hands was really well done as well. When like he's kissing her and you just see it like change into that, like a snake shedding its skin.
Yeah. You feel like gross. When he was hugging her, he would have been like peeling her skin off. Like that's what she looked like. Just he leaves with flabby skin attached to him.
Yeah, that one is the main one. But then I thought, as I was watching, was there a point to have Halloran with these two? They're beautiful, by the way, but these two pictures of these naked ladies on either side of him with the big afros, he's on his bed watching TV, one behind him. And then when it goes to the point of view of the TV, there's one over
I have that
TV.
flagged for the next category.
Yeah, that was one of my other kids.
I guess like in the time that was a thing, right? Like you had calendars of nude girls up around.
I wonder,
but they're so artsy.
I know. I wonder if it was felt.
Oh, like the velvet, like a velvet
the
painting.
velvet paintings in the 70s and early 80s. Yeah. Anyway, Mike, did you have one?
I'm going to skip the obvious one, I think. But for me, and this was more of a complaint, it could have been under my doesn't hold up, but it's the slow dissolves between scenes.
Oh, yeah. I had a note about that, too. Yeah. They use a lot of cross dissolves in here. Yeah.
And I get it when he's doing the interview and it dissolves to Danny and Wendy and he's eating like that Wonder Bread sandwich that as a teenager, I'm like, oh, I haven't had white bread. My parents always bought brown bread. So I was like, that sandwich looks amazing. Right. I just want white bread. I want a white bread jelly sandwich. There's slow dissolve to Danny and Wendy talking about like that. And he's got the job. He's going to call you, or no, that's Tony in the bathroom. But that conversation about going to the hotel, then it slow dissolves back. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. It's a meanwhile transition.
Right.
But so many other times in the movies, there's this slow dissolve, cross dissolve, slow dissolve, cross dissolve. It was like the wipes in Star Wars. It became too much.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't care about the scene the first time I watched it. That makes me sound cold. But now that I have a little boy, when they show the two dead twins in the hallway, like all axed up, blood everywhere.
Yeah. That was my next one too.
The second time I saw it, I was like, oh, little kids chopped up in the hallway.
Yeah.
First time I didn't even notice, I don't think. But now with a kid, I'm like, oh, you can't chop up the kids with an axe.
Well, and it's the fact that they flash to it quick and it's like, oh, that was upsetting.
Yeah.
And then they show it the next time and for a beat longer. It's like, in case you didn't notice the blood and body parts, here you go again.
Yeah. Mike, did you have another one?
The one that I was going to skip, it's the elevator, right? The blood coming down.
Oh, okay,
and, I mean, it's a cool effect. It's neat. It's creepy. Well done. But yeah, it's the obvious.
It's one of the only really effects in the movie. Like there's not a ton of special effects.
No.
They put an axe into a guy's chest. They had the blood flowing down the hallway and the old lady.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Yep.
And I'll jump to something from my research. It took a year to film the scene.
I had that as well. Yeah.
Like, because they had to keep cleaning it up afterwards. Like, just amazing. Like, you could have got it in one, but Kubrick's a perfectionist, I guess.
It took him 9 days to set up the shot each time that they had to do it.
Because they had to like recarpet and everything, or what was the...
Just all the cleanup, get the blood back to where it needed to be, set the cameras up, get everybody back to where they needed to do it. It took 9 full days.
And then clean up after that. So the shot was probably like a good 3 minutes and then reset.
Do it again.
Do it again.
But what was the whole, like they just wanted the flow to look right? Because it was, if I remember correctly, it's just blood flowing out of...
It just comes out the side and it just goes down and then, just kind of splashes onto the floor and comes forward. And it just...
They just wanted it to look
They just wanted
right.
it to look... He wanted it to look a certain way. The first time they did it, he hated it. Second time they did it, he hated it. And then they did a lot more planning around it. And then the third time they did it, he took that.
Yeah.
But it took them that long to get it. Yeah.
A lot of blood.
A lot of blood. Yeah.
A lot of corn
And could
syrup.
you imagine being the crew on that and they do it and they're like, oh, wow. Because the crew is probably like, that looked amazing. That's good. That's good. Reset. We're going to do it again.
Yeah.
Clean this all up. It's like, man, that took 9 days.
Yeah.
Every nook and cranny needs to be wiped of blood. Set her up again.
Yeah.
It'd be great to see the cuts of that. Like, probably because you'd see it and be like, they all look the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he sees something.
There's a drop on the right-hand side that's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's got a very specific way he wants things done. And that took forever to do. Yeah. Okay. So now we're going to go into our next category, terrifying or titillating. TJ, you're going to kick us off with this one.
So this was kind of all one big scene for me, which started with Hollerin's apartment, and they show the tasteful, nice photos of the beautiful women, but you're like, that's kind of weird that he has that as art up in his room, but whatever. Yeah. And then they cut to the bathroom scene with the beautiful lady coming out of the tub, and then the sharp cut to the gross, decaying old lady making out with Jack.
Yeah.
But it makes you feel weird at first, and then you're like, well, that's kind of nice. And then you're like, oh.
So it titillated you.
It titillated the shit out of me. Yeah.
I got to piggyback on that. There weren't any other really titillating moments in this film other than those pictures and the woman coming out of the bathtub. When I was a kid watching that woman come out of the bathtub for the first time, it was like, whoa. She's amazing. Like, this is an amazing scene. And then she turns into the old hag, and I was like, God.
Yeah. That was a very confusing scene for me.
It's like, I don't know what to do.
I remember, like, I was again in a room with like my friend and like his mother and friend. It's like, this is an uncomfortable scene to watch with adults, but she is really hot. And then it just gets weird.
Yeah. All right. Our next one is going to go into Stood the Test of Time. Mike, you're going to kick us off with this one.
My first one, and I'm guessing it's an obvious one, but it is the daughters of Grady, or the twins, depending on which version you watch. But when he's biking and he comes across them, the first time he sees them when he's in the game room throwing the darts.
Yeah.
And they're just the way they look at him and then turn. And then in the hallway, they're just there. Like, there's something about twins. It's just creepy. And the play with us, Danny. Right?
Yeah.
Come and play with us, Danny. It's just, still to this day, that's one of the unsettling moments.
Well, they do a good job with that too, because like when they first show them, there's still people in the hotel. So they could just be kids, right? And then they bring them back and you're like, oh, those are some shady stuff going on.
Ghosts, yeah. My first one was actually, I had that as well, but I had another one. I think it's probably my favorite shot in the film is when Jack is locked in the dry goods and it's a low angle shot and he's let me out. But he's speaking almost to the camera with his head down.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be on the other side of the door. And he's just,
Wendy, darling, we can work this out.
Yeah. And he's like, give me one more chance. And it's just very well done. I just love the look of that scene. So that was my Stood the Test of Time.
I said Stood the Test of Time was the whole set other than the Art Deco in general. Like they just picked the perfect location for it.
Yeah.
And compared to some of the older horror movies where the sets are like maybe not that well put together, they try to build the sets. This was just like they used the location as it was.
Yep.
And you could film it today there and it would still look fantastic. Like with 4K cameras or whatever you want to put on it, and it's just a beautiful, perfect set.
I agree. Like the difference in size of the rooms too, right? There's a claustrophobia in some parts, and then there's a vastness in others, and openness and the
emptiness.
Yeah, it plays with it so well.
Yeah.
Really, when he plays with that ball and he's throwing it around, and you just hear the echo of the ball, like the space is just, there's just so much.
Yeah.
You really get the feeling that they're isolated. They're all alone there. Yeah.
Oh, and the idea of riding a tricycle down the hallway of a hotel.
Oh, that would be
How
amazing.
great would that be?
Yeah.
I love the sound of that too. When he goes from the carpet to the floor to the carpet to the floor. It's like,
Yeah. So satisfying.
so good.
Yeah, that was going to be my next test of time. It is great.
I love how excited you got with that too. Oh, and
Like everyone wants one. Like
Well,
I
who
want to
wouldn't want to do that?
yeah.
just get a big wheel and go.
Yeah.
Mine is Animaniacs kind of ruined it for me, but the red rum, that's a deep dive in case everyone watched Animaniacs in the 90s. But the first time watching this with the red rum, like I had no idea. I did not know what red rum was. And then when you see the reflection in the mirror, like they do a good job there. Because until he starts to write it, you don't realize it's something backwards, at least for me. Maybe I'm a dense viewer, but.
Well, because he writes the first R correctly, he writes the second R backwards.
Yeah, and the D
That's where I
backwards.
kind of was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you realize it's starting to go backward. Yeah, but that was really good. And then that into where Shelley Duvall's talking to him, and Tony's like, Danny can't wake up, Mrs. Torrance. It was just like, I was still creepy. To this day, still creepy.
My next stood the test of time, I guess, was the shots of Jack in his typing room in that big, vast room with that giant fire. I just loved the look of that room. And when he's typing in it, you just hear the typewriter, and that's all you hear.
Yeah.
I think he uses sound really well in this film, but I love that shot when it comes from behind and it's on a dolly shot just closing in on him and then he's typing away.
Yeah.
I just really like that shot.
The shots in general, like where they're following him riding Danny down the hallway, riding his little tricycle. And I don't know how often they did that before, but it was like a long shot following him around, and then they kind of panned around a little bit.
Well, the Steadicam and the one that I still can't remember, the one they used on Halloween, like they were still relatively new inventions.
Yeah.
Right. So the use of it in this is amazing by Kubrick. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. TJ, did you have another one?
Even though they use very few of them, the effects that they used in the film were pretty effective. Like they didn't go too deep into the water of like trying to overplay. Like in the book, there are the hedges or creatures and stuff like that, but they didn't even try to do that. They just kept it very simple and it worked.
Yeah, the hedge maze coming alive is one of the many things wrong with the TV series version of this.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I saw some clips of the monsters. Like they didn't have it back then.
No.
For me, another test of time is when Jack kills Dick Halloran. When Halloran walks in and he's coming to like see what's going on, and he's calling like, is anybody here? Hello. And he's walking through the foyer of the hotel. You know it's coming. You've seen it a million times. They did a great job of it in The Simpsons as well in their parody of this in The Shinning.
Yeah, that's right.
But I hadn't seen this movie in so long that I couldn't remember which post Jack Nicholson came out of. So even though I knew the axe was coming, I'm like, well, is it the first set of pillars? Is it the second set of pillars? Is it left or right? He just screams and comes around and just digs it into his chest. It's still so good.
Right. Yeah. That was the biggest moment that it's so different from the book. Like that really catches you off guard if you read the book first and then watch the movie.
Right.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't die in the book.
Oh.
Yeah. He gets beaten up, but he doesn't die like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right, our next category, we're going to talk about the audio in this film, eerie to ear splitting. I'm going to start. Obviously, the first opening song, the Symphonie Fantastique, fourth movement, also used in Sleeping with the Enemy.
Oh,
No.
With Julia Roberts, and just right away has an ominous sound to it, lets you know you're in for trouble.
Yeah.
It's just very low and do, 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 like it's
Very
it's
like
just freaky.
Godzilla-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I liked about that opening sequence was the song being used while they're driving to the hotel.
Other than the credits.
Other than the credits, yes, the cheesy credits and the high angle shots.
Yeah, the music is fantastic. The opening scene's awesome, but then it builds up the whole way to that creepy like ghost chorus at the very end.
Yep.
Like it builds higher and higher and higher, and then you hear the ooh, ooh, whatever's going on in the background. But yeah, it just built the tension of the movie the entire way through.
Yeah, Mike?
The score, the beginning was great. The use of the high pitch that TJ talked about earlier was really good at like just getting under your skin and just like sending something up your nerves. This watch around though, I don't know. By about halfway through the movie, I'm like, this score is everywhere.
He does use it a lot, actually. I made the comment that he uses audio effectively, but there was a time where I was like, there's a lot of background music in this film.
Like it's a ton of music. So it was a bit much. But the other thing that I really liked was when the caretaker is returning to the Overlook and he's driving in the snowcat and you have like the heartbeat and you just hear his heartbeat the whole time. Like, and it starts to pick up a bit as he starts to get more anxious about what's happening at the hotel. Right. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
I thought the sound at the end where he's hunting Danny in the maze was really well done. It was like almost industrial. It's just as he's hunting him down, and he's out there screaming and limping around. Ooh, as he's yelling at him and stuff. I thought it was really well done.
Yeah.
Do you have another one, TJ?
The music itself was great. The first like 20 minutes, it took me a while to get used to how the mics sounded on the actors themselves. It kind of had that like 1950s like meow, see type of sound to it. But then you forget, like you kind of. But I was nitpicking little things like that.
Right.
But the music was great, but the actor sounded old.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the first part of our discussion of Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. Tune in next week for part 2 of the discussion where we finish off the categories, our information, and place it on our watchability scale. Thank you for listening.